The sea boils with thunder, the horizon burns with the glow of 1,000 fires. The cries of men, the clash of iron, the shattering of oars. This is not the Mediterranean of postcards and poets. This is a sea of monsters, a graveyard of ambition. It is 264 years before the birth of Christ, and two civilizations are about to tear each other apart. Not for survival, not even for revenge, but for something more ancient, more primal power. The kind that bends empires and carves gods from men. On one side, Carthage, queen of the western Mediterranean, mistress of the seas, her ships prowling the waves like predators, her merchants counting coin from Iberia to Egypt. On the other, Rome, hungry, iron-hearted, landlocked no longer, a wolf that has tasted too much blood to ever stop. The war that begins now will last a generation. It will devour 100,000 lives, reshape continents, and mark the beginning of the end for one of history's greatest powers. But in its first moments, no one could have guessed the scale of the storm to come. It began, as great tragedies often do, with something small, a city on a hill, a plea for help, and a choice that could not be undone. The city was Messana, perched on the narrow strait between Italy and Sicily, a gateway to everything. Its rulers, the Mamertines, were mercenaries, wolves without a master, who had seized the city years earlier. But now they were caught between two greater powers, Carthage, who guarded the sea, and Rome, whose legions now stared across the water. The Mamertines called for aid. First to Carthage, then to Rome. Both answered. Both saw opportunity, and that single spark would ignite a fire that would consume nations. Imagine standing on the walls of Messana that day, the salt wind whipping across your face, the sight of Carthaginian ships gliding into the harbor, their black sails blotting out the sun. Soldiers disembark, disciplined, silent, eyes like obsidian. They come not as saviors, but as a warning. Carthage protects what is hers. Yet even as they raise their banners over the city, across the strait, Rome moves. The Senate debates, voices rise. Some argue Sicily is not their concern. Others whisper that if Rome does not act, Carthage will control the sea forever. The hawks win. The first Roman army ever to cross the sea is assembled, not for conquest, but for fear. Fear of being caged on their own peninsula. They send the consul Appius Claudius Caudex, and with him the first taste of Roman ambition beyond Italy. When the Roman ships cross the strait, the world changes. No longer are they bound by land and sword. Now they challenge the sea itself. The Carthaginians are shocked, not because Rome dares, but because Rome succeeds. Messana becomes a battlefield, a stage for two titans to test each other's mettle. The Carthaginian general Hanno commands his forces with cold precision, but the Romans fight like men possessed. Steel meets bronze, shield meets spear, and the air fills with screams and smoke. The Romans win, not decisively, but symbolically. For the first time, they have fought Carthage and lived to tell of it. The Senate celebrates. But deep within the heart of Carthage, something ancient stirs. Rome has crossed the line. War is declared. The First Punic War has begun. Carthage's strength lies in her navy. Her ships are floating fortresses, their crews borne to the waves. Rome's strength lies on land. Her legions are walls of flesh and iron. For 23 years the war will rage, a clash between sea and soil. In the beginning, Carthage dominates. Their triremes slice through the waves, ramming and burning Roman transports. The Mediterranean becomes their hunting ground. Rome bleeds. But Rome learns. Always Rome learns. They study captured Carthaginian ships, build replicas, improve them. They invent the corvus, a boarding bridge, a monstrous iron beak that turns sea battles into land battles. The first time they use it, at Mylae, the sea turns red. The Carthaginian fleet, elegant and swift, finds itself trapped, boarded, butchered. Roman soldiers pour across the decks, their shields clanging, their swords hacking. The Carthaginians, masters of the sea, are slaughtered on their own element. For the first time in history, the Romans command the waves. The victory is intoxicating, but it comes at a cost. The Corvus makes their ships heavy, clumsy. When the storms come, they die by the thousands, men and wood swallowed whole by the deep. Yet still they rebuild, again and again, because Rome does not retreat. Rome endures. Meanwhile, in Carthage, anger brews like a tempest. The senate of the city, the wealthy merchants and admirals, argue endlessly. Carthage is not a city of warriors, it is a city of traders. They hire others to fight for them. Numidians, Iberians, Gauls. They pay in gold what Rome buys in blood. Among their commanders rises one name, whispered in awe and fear, Hamilcar Barca, a man born of fire and fury. He despises Rome, even then, but his time will come later. For now, Carthage sends general after general to Sicily, each one bleeding the island dry, trying to hold what ground they can. Sicily becomes a graveyard, a land of shifting front lines and endless siege. Cities are besieged, freed, besieged again, crops burn, rivers choke with bodies. For the peasants who till the fields, there are no victors, only new masters. For 20 years, the two powers grind each other down. At Agrigentum, the Romans fight their first great pitched battle overseas. It is brutal, desperate, a contest of starvation and attrition. When the Carthaginians finally break, the Romans slaughter them. The message is clear: Rome does not share power. She replaces it. But still, Carthage does not yield. Even as Rome builds fleets and loses them, builds again and loses again, Carthage waits. She has time. She has wealth. She believes Rome will tire. But the Romans do not tire. They adapt. They learn the rhythms of the sea, the craft of the sailor, the cunning of the admiral. They build ships faster, stronger, deadlier. Each loss only teaches them how to win. And beneath the waves, the bones of the dead whisper their lessons. By the year 256 BC, the war has already claimed tens of thousands of lives, yet neither side can strike the killing blow. Rome decides to gamble everything. They will invade Africa itself, strike Carthage at her heart. The plan is madness. No Roman army has ever marched on foreign soil across the sea. But madness, in Rome, is often just another name for courage. The fleet they build is enormous. More than 300 warships, manned by over 100,000 men. The consul Marcus Atilius Regulus leads them, his confidence as vast as the sea he sails upon. As they near the African coast, the Carthaginian navy intercepts them. It is one of the largest naval battles in ancient history, the Battle of Ecnomus. The Mediterranean becomes a churning cauldron of chaos. Ramming prows collide with the sound of thunder. Oars snap, men scream, the sky fills with smoke. It is said that you could walk across the sea on the wreckage of ships. But somehow, through sheer determination and savage discipline, the Romans win. They break the Carthaginian line, drive them back, and land on African soil. For the first time, Roman boots tread the sands of Africa. The city of Carthage trembles, yet even victory carries its curse. Regulus, swollen with pride, advances inland. At first, his campaign is a triumph. Towns surrender, Carthaginian armies crumble. Rome seems unstoppable. But Carthage does what she has always done: she adapts. She hires a new commander, a Spartan named Xanthippus, a man who understands war like few others. He drills their troops, reforms their cavalry, and when the two armies finally meet on the plains near Tunis, the earth itself seems to hold its breath. The Roman legions, unstoppable on land, are outmaneuvered. The Carthaginian elephants crash through their lines, the cavalry envelops them. The Roman formation shatters. Thousands die where they stand. Regulus is captured. The dream of Roman Africa burns in the sand. Rome's pride is broken, but not her will. Back home, the Senate weeps for their fallen sons, but already they plan the next fleet, the next war. Because for Rome, defeat is never the end. It is a lesson. The Carthaginians send Regulus back to Rome under oath to plead for peace, but legend says he refused to beg. He told his people to fight on, to never bow. Then he returned to Carthage, where he was tortured and killed. Whether the tale is truth or myth, it captures something real about this war. It was not fought for victory alone. It was fought for identity, for pride, for the soul of the Mediterranean. The sea itself seemed to hunger for blood, and it was far from full. The war would grind on for another decade, storms, sieges, betrayals, and the slow death of hope. But for now, as the smoke rises over Africa and Rome rebuilds yet another fleet, one truth is clear. The First Punic War is no longer a conflict between states. It is a war of worlds, between land and sea, between endurance and wealth, between a wolf and a merchant prince, and only one can survive. The smoke of Africa clings to Roman memory like a scar that will never fade. Years pass, but the cries of Regulus still echo in the Senate halls, in the dreams of every soldier who ever watched the sea swallow a friend. Rome rebuilds again, always again, but now the war has changed. It's no longer about swift victories or noble causes. It's about survival, about endurance. The kind of war that turns nations into machines and men into ghosts. Sicily, the island that began it all, becomes the war's crucible. Every hill, every field, every village burns beneath the weight of endless sieges. For a generation, the land knows no peace. Crops rot in the soil, cities change hands like coins, and the dead outnumber the living. The Romans, relentless as tides, pour resources into the struggle. Their legions march with iron discipline, carving their way across the island one fortress at a time. The Carthaginians answer with cunning and patience, using their fleets to cut supply lines, their elephants to crush infantry, their gold to buy loyalty. But beneath the marble calm of Carthage, frustration grows. The merchant princes argue in their chambers, voices rising over maps and ledgers. They count coins, not bodies, and to them the war is a transaction. But war cannot be balanced like trade. It devours more than gold. It devours spirit. It's in this crucible that Hamilcar Barca steps into the fire, young, fierce, and utterly ruthless. He's a man who doesn't believe in negotiation, only in vengeance. To him, Rome is not an enemy, it's a disease, a plague that must be burned from the world. When Hamilcar takes command in Sicily around 247 BC, Carthage is reeling. Her fleets have been broken, her generals shamed. But Hamilcar doesn't retreat. He doesn't fight the Romans in open battle. He bleeds them slowly, like a wolf in the hills. He wages a war of ambushes, raids deception. He strikes from the shadows, then vanishes into the mountains. He teaches the Romans something they hate to learn: fear. His men call him the Lion. The Romans call him the Thunderbolt. To both, he is a nightmare. He knows Carthage cannot match Rome man for man, so he wages a different kind of war, one that relies on will. And for 8 long years, he holds the Romans at bay. Rome, too, feels the weight of time. The war has drained her coffers, broken her fleets, buried her sons. The Senate is wary. The people are restless. For the first time, cracks appear in the iron of Rome's resolve. Yet somehow, they refuse to let go. They raise taxes, demand ships from allies, strip temples for silver, anything to build another fleet. The war at sea, once a bloody farce, now becomes their obsession. The Corvus, the deadly boarding bridge that once brought them victory, has been abandoned. The new ships are lighter, faster, deadlier. This time, Rome won't fight the sea like soldiers on land. This time they will master it. When their fleet sails again, it is smaller, but sharper, like a blade honed on years of failure. Across the waves, Carthage watches, wary and proud. Her admirals remember Mylae, Ecnomus, the endless wrecks littering the seafloor. They know what Rome is capable of when cornered. Still, they trust in their experience, their seamanship, their gods. It is 241 BC when the two powers meet for the last time in the shadow of the Aegates Islands off western Sicily. The morning mist rolls across the water, thick as smoke. The Carthaginian fleet sails heavy with supplies. lumber, grain, troops to relieve the siege of Drepana. They are confident, unaware that death waits in the fog. Suddenly, the Roman fleet bursts from the haze. 300 warships, sleek and deadly, their oars cutting through the water like knives. The battle is chaos. The Carthaginians scramble to form ranks, their ships weighed down and sluggish. The Romans, lighter and faster, close in. They ram board and burn with ruthless precision. The sea turns black with smoke, red with blood. Men scream, ships splinter, bodies vanish beneath the waves. Hours pass, but the slaughter doesn't stop. By the time the sun breaks through, it's over. The Carthaginian fleet is gone. Rome has won. The last fleet of Carthage sinks beneath the waves, and with it, centuries of maritime supremacy. The merchants in Carthage hear the news in silence. The city that once ruled the sea is now chained to it. They have no choice but to surrender. The First Punic War is over, but victory has a taste like ash. Rome has triumphed, yes, but at a cost so vast it defies counting. Hundreds of thousands dead, whole fleets gone. 23 years of unending war. The triumphal arches cannot hide the grief carved into the faces of mothers and widows. And yet something in Rome has changed. The wolf has tasted blood beyond its shores. The Republic has learned to conquer not just neighbors, but empires. Sicily becomes Rome's first province, the first piece of a global empire, yet unborn. The Senate celebrates, but the veterans know what was paid. They have seen things no man should see, storms that swallowed armies, beaches carpeted with corpses, fields that wept red for years. They return home not as heroes, but as shadows. Across the sea in Carthage, Hamilcar Barca does not attend the peace ceremony. He doesn't bow, doesn't break. He withdraws to Africa's hills, his soldiers still loyal, his hatred undimmed. He swears that Carthage will rise again, that one day his sons will avenge this humiliation. One of those sons, a boy named Hannibal, listens to his father's oath by the firelight. Hamilcar takes the child's hand, places it on a sacrificial altar, and whispers words that will echo across generations. Swear to me that you will never be a friend to Rome. And the boy swears. That single moment, silent and unseen, is the true end of the First Punic War, and the beginning of something far greater. Rome believes the nightmare is over. But across the sea, in the heart of a child, a new storm begins to form. Years later, that storm will come crashing over Italy in a flood of elephants and vengeance. But for now, the sea is quiet. The wrecks rot beneath the waves, the bones of men and ships lying side by side. The war that began with a city's plea for help has redrawn the map of the world. The Mediterranean, once ruled by Carthage, now bows to Rome. Yet in that silence, in the stillness of victory, something uneasy lingers. Rome has won the sea, but in doing so, she has awakened an enemy who will stop at nothing to destroy her. The gods, it seems, have only just begun their game. The smoke of burnt ships still drifts across the Mediterranean, though years have passed since the last oar broke the waves at the Agates Islands. The war is over, but peace feels like a ghost. Something fragile, unnatural, almost mocking. Rome stands victorious, but she does not yet understand what her victory truly means. In the quiet that follows the storm, the Republic begins to transform. Sicily, once a distant battlefield, becomes her first province, a new word for a new world. Governors replace generals, taxes replace tribute, and the Romans begin to taste the sweetness of empire. But empires are built not on triumphs, but on scars, and Rome carries plenty. The legions that return from Sicily march through the streets of the eternal city like spectres. They have seen the sea devour comrades, watched cities burn until night itself turned to day. For the people, they are heroes. For themselves, they are reminders of how far Rome has fallen into the hunger for conquest. The Senate praises their endurance, their discipline, their faith. But behind those marble smiles, the old aristocrats whisper of ambition, of new lands, new riches, new wars. Because once a republic learns it can rule beyond its borders, the dream of conquest becomes impossible to silence. The merchants of Carthage, too, rebuild in silence. Their docks creak with new ships, smaller, humbler. Their markets reopen, their trade revives. Outwardly, they seem subdued, chastened by defeat. But beneath that surface, a different fire burns. The war has changed Carthage as deeply as it changed Rome. The Carthaginians no longer believe in their senate or their admirals. They believe in the men who fought and bled for them without the city's help, men like Hamilcar Barca. To the people, he is not just a general, he is a savior. The soldiers who followed him in Sicily remain loyal, even after peace. They worship him as a hero, a man of action in a city of talk. Hamilcar sees clearly what his city cannot, that the war may be over, but the enemy remains. Rome has taken Sicily, yes, but she will never stop there. She will keep coming like a tide that cannot be turned. So he plans quietly, patiently. While the Senate counts its coins, Hamilcar looks west, to Iberia, to Spain. There the earth is rich in silver and men are fierce. It is a land far from Rome's reach, a place where Carthage might rebuild her power in secret. And so he goes, leading his army across the sea, carving a new empire from the dust. For 9 years he fights in Spain, teaching his soldiers discipline, loyalty, the art of endurance. His enemies call him the Father of Thunder. His men call him the Lion. But at home, in Carthage, his legend begins to fade. The merchants grow restless. They have debts to pay, profits to restore. They send mercenaries to fight Rome's wars, and when those wars end, they refuse to pay them. The result is chaos. The mercenary war, the truceless war, as some will later call it, erupts across Africa. The same hired killers who once fought for Carthage now turn their swords against her. It is a war without honor, without restraint. Cities are burned, captives flayed alive, children thrown from walls. Carthage faces destruction not from Rome, but from her own folly. And once again, it is Hamilcar who saves her. He returns from Spain with his veterans, crushes the rebellion, and restores order through fire and steel. The city survives, but it learns nothing. The Senate distrusts him even more, fearing his popularity, his army, his dreams. But he doesn't care. His gaze is already fixed beyond Africa, beyond the sea, upon Rome herself. In the shadows of his camp, he raises his sons to hate Rome as he does. Hannibal, the eldest, is the brightest of them. The boy listens to tales of Sicily and Africa, of betrayal and blood. He sees his father's scars and understands their meaning. When Hamilcar leads a campaign into Spain once more, he takes the boy with him. One night, by the light of a dying fire, he makes Hannibal swear the oath that will change the world. Never be a friend to Rome. And Hannibal swears. In that moment, history shifts. The gods, silent through the First Punic War, stir once more. Because the story that began with Messana, one city caught between two powers, has not ended. It has only evolved. Carthage, beaten but unbroken, is learning a new kind of war, one born of vengeance and patience, of ghosts and oaths. Rome, triumphant and proud, is expanding still. Sardinia, Corsica, the coasts of Gaul, they all fall under her shadow. The Republic has discovered a dangerous truth: conquest feeds itself, and every victory demands another. But deep down in the quiet chambers of their minds, even the senators know this peace cannot last. The Mediterranean feels tense again, like a bowstring pulled too tight. The air smells of salt and iron. The gods are watching. Across the sea, in the mountains of Spain, a new army trains under Hamilcar's banner. When he dies, command passes to his son-in-law, Hasdrubal the Fair, who builds a glittering city on the Iberian coast, Carthago Nova. From there, the Barcid family rules a new Carthaginian realm, and in its heart, growing stronger each day, is Hannibal. The boy of the oath becomes the general of destiny. He learns from his father's campaigns, from his people's mistakes, from Rome's arrogance. He studies not just war, but the minds of his enemies. And when the time comes, he will bring a storm the likes of which the world has never seen. But for now, the world sleeps uneasily under Rome's shadow. Farmers in Sicily plant crops in soil still rich with bones. Sailors whisper of ghost ships that appear in the fog, the last remnants of Carthage's fleets. And in Rome itself, triumphal processions give way to silence. Because for all her glory, the Republic is uneasy. She has become what she once feared, a power that rules through conquest, not virtue. The First Punic War taught her how to fight on sea and land, how to command armies, fleets, and provinces. But it also taught her something darker, that war is not an event, it is a condition, a hunger that cannot be sated. The Senate does not yet know it, but the seeds of their destruction have already been planted. In the blood of Hamilcar, in the heart of Hannibal, in the oath sworn under fire. When the Second Punic War comes, it will not begin with a plea for help or a small city's betrayal. It will begin with elephants crossing the Alps, with thunder rolling down from the mountains, with Rome herself trembling beneath the feet of her greatest enemy. But that is another story. For now, the sea lies still, holding its secrets beneath the waves. The bones of sailors, the wrecks of ships, the whispers of oaths, all sleep beneath the blue. Above them, the empires they birthed march toward their fate, blind to how much of their future still belongs to the dead. The First Punic War has ended, but its shadow stretches across the centuries. And in that shadow, you can still hear the faint echo of oars in the dark, the ghostly clash of iron on bronze, the eternal struggle between Rome and Carthage, between land and sea, pride and survival, destiny and doom.